Hey guys, Yogi Sharp here, the equine documentalist. Today we're going to go over one of the fundamental principles of my shoeing practice, and that is shoeing around the centre of rotation. So we've got this guy here, we've taken the shoe off, we've cleaned up the foot just a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to map the foot, we're going to establish where the centre of rotation is, and then we're going to fit our shoe around that, so get proportions around the centre of rotation. And obviously that shoeing practice is advocated by a lot of the top farriers, is written about in Mark Caldwell's PhD. Grant Moon talked about it in his thesis. So we want to establish proportions around the centre of rotation. It's one of the most important fundamental principles of my practice. So we're going to go ahead and map the foot, clean the foot up, map it. So this chap also, he's going to have some pads on because he's got, you can see there we've got slightly weak heels. He's got high-low as well. So we do everything we can with this chap to do what we can to look after alignment, because shoeing around the centre of rotation is not just about what we see here, but it's also about creating alignment laterally. So we want a straight hoof past an axis. So as you can see, this foot's not far off. We've managed to achieve some heel growth from last time. You can see the other foot's a lot flatter, so the other foot's gonna need possibly some elevation, but we're going to put frog support padding in him all round to see if we can get some heel growth over time. But we're going to focus on this foot for now. So the first thing we want to do when we're mapping the foot is we want to find our landmark. So we want to find the point at which the buttress merges into the frog. So we're just going to clean up this area here just to make sure we can get the true point of the buttress. Just going to give the foot a little bit of clean up. We're not going to, we want to look after these bars. They're very weak feet, and the bars play a really important role in the hemodynamic system and supporting the back of the foot. So we're just going to sculpt them up a little bit, look after them, and over time we should start to get some healthier bars and a healthier foot. You can see the foot's quite contracted. We've got a frog that's much longer than it is wide. So already we're assessing the foot and we're thinking, what have we got to do to achieve better proportions? So this is part of the reason we're going to put padding on, because we want to engage this frog, get some more expansion and contraction of the foot, because we know that from Rupster 2001, who showed that shoes restrict the natural expansion and contraction of the foot, whereas when you add frog support, it re-engages some of that expansion. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to shoe around centre of rotation for optimal biomechanics and provide that frog support to hopefully look after these heels and also get some more expansion and contraction of the foot. So we don't want to rob this frog too much. There's not a lot of foot there. It may look like there's quite a lot of concavity, but there's not a lot of toe there really. We're just going to establish where our white line is for foot mapping. Make sure we can see the inner border of the white line at the toe pillars. So there we've got a foot now that I can map. So I'm just going to give it back to him a sec because he's flat-footed. He doesn't like holding up too long. Right, so you're going to need a pen and a ruler. So first thing we want to do is, like I said, we want to establish the end of the buttress here and here. Okay, and then from that point we want to go in a straight line to the inside border of the white line. So that's the white line here. That's the inside border of that white line. Straight line down the foot there, and then do the same the other side. You gotta make sure you're straight to the inside of the white line there, and then we're going to go across from there to there like that, and across the other way like that. That's not quite right, up there. Okay, so this point where they cross over, that's our centre of rotation here, across the foot here. And what you'll see is that it corresponds with the furthest back, widest part of the sole. So that's where the centre of rotation. So that means that inside, underneath this point here, is the, if you go up into the foot from that point, you're going to hit the centre of the distal condyle of the middle phalanx, and that's the point at which the distal phalanx rotates around. So that's the point that the hoof rotates around. So that's what we want to create biomechanics around, by creating a 50-50 base split around the centre of rotation. Okay, so having that point there tells us, so if I'm going to shoe to the widest point of the frog, I like to shoe to where we've established our buttress, so you're going to have 2 1/4 inches there. So 2 1/4 inches from there means I want my breakover to be around there. Okay, so this, for me, that's how I establish my breakover. And obviously you've got other methods, so you can go from the apex, you've got the Gene Ovnicek method and other methods, but for me, establishing 50-50 around that point there, the widest point of the frog, is where I get my 50-50 from. So we're going to give this toe a little bit of a trim down. We're going to tickle the heels. I've got a little bit of a buckle in the heel there. This heel's relatively strong. So we want to try and look after the heels, because as I said, part of shoeing around the centre of rotation is the third dimension, which is the alignment. And it becomes ever increasingly difficult to get 50-50 around the centre of rotation when you don't have this alignment. And again, that was shown by Grant Moon's thesis, that being able to get centre of rotation being in the correct place depends on the proportions of the foot. So if we've got a straight alignment, we can kind of be pretty accurate in terms of where that centre of rotation is going to be. So can you give it trim up now? So as you can see, there's not a lot of foot there to take off. Just going to give ourselves the shape that we want. You can see we've not got perfectly symmetrical foot. We've got less foot to the medial than we have to the lateral. I did walk this guy up earlier and he landed pretty level, so you know, we've got reasonable medial lateral balance on the long axis as well. But what we're going to do is with our shoe fit, we're going to establish balance around the centre of rotation this way, but also as much as we can this way, obviously without too much risk of pulling the shoe off. So climb into my little cave, grab myself so when I'm doing this kind of shoeing, I like to use the equilibrium air because it enables me to come under that toe slightly, as we saw. I do want that breakover slightly back, and it's got the breakover built into the shoe as well. So So that just enables me to get that 50-50 quite nicely. So as we can see there, that's too short, yeah, because we want to be shoeing back to the base. So this shoe here gets our breakover, which is about here on the shoe, around about where that line is, and then this length enables us to come round and fit to those wide point of the frog, which is not very wide. It's all contracted, so that's exactly why we're also going to put padding in. So that's the shoe. Help if I got the right side, wouldn't it? Not the best health and safety for any of you whose ignition buttons don't work. You should get them fixed. So as I said, this guy's got a high-low. We started off with very, very low heels on this chap. Now we're coming back into the harder ground. We're going to go back into padding because budget dictates we can't stay in them whole year round. But we are going to go back into them now that we're coming into the harder ground. So we're going to put these 3D printed pads on that are printed for him, and we're going to use the Comfort Mix hoof padding as well. Wait for that to heat up. So yeah, as I was saying, we've got a high-low on this chap. So if we look at this foot, this is the worst foot. We can see we've got quite a broken back hoof pastanaxis. He's a bit of a shoe puller, so you're restricted with how much length you can give him. But you can see here this heel to toe height ratio is this foot's going to need a little bit of elevation, frog support padding again. And what we want to do is create the ideal for each foot. So obviously when they've got high-low, you're not often you're going to get them to be a pair, but you want them each to be ideal within their own right. So this foot's obviously broken back, so we're going to work on creating more ideal hoof on that one. And on the other side, we just want to maintain what we've achieved. Do this chap one foot at a time in front because that foot's so flat he can't stand. That's something that I advise people to do, is rather than struggling with a flat-footed horse taking both fronts off, just doing one at a time. It makes your life so much easier. as I was saying, shoeing around the centre of rotation is good practice for anyone really. I'll explain a little bit more why in a minute. So I'm going to try and keep as much symmetry in the shoe as possible. You know, we know that that inside is much narrower than that outside. And like I said, he is a bit of a shoe puller, so we have to be sensible with how much we give him. But I'm not a big burner. I prefer to trim my foot where I want it, especially with feet like this. You don't want to be doing loads of burning on thin soled feet like this. So you should be able to see that we're starting to create 50-50 around that centre of rotation point that we can see. Find some water. Right, bear with me. So the important thing for me when I'm creating 50-50 around the centre of rotation is not to do it by weakening the toe. So we're leaving the full depth of the wall at the toe, leaving all its integrity, especially on that other foot, because the issue is how low the heels are, not how long the toe is. Very often people confusing long toes with actually a toe at an acute angle, and it's not the toe that's long, it's the heels that are low. So it's always important to make sure you assess whether you've actually got long toes or whether you've just got low heels. So if we look at the position of this shoe now, I've lost my ruler, but if we look at that distance there and we look at that distance there, then we've got that breakover across that line there. So we've got 50-50 now around the centre of rotation. So So just making sure our boxing's right. Got a little bit of width on that inside. You can see now we've got a much more symmetrical base. So we've left a little bit of width here for him. So we've got 50-50 around the centre of rotation there and 50-50 around the centre of rotation there. So creating biomechanical efficiency. Right, now we've got to fit our pad. So as you saw, the heel's quite contracted on this foot, so we're going to have to take our pad in and get rid of this bit for the frog. Do that. So there we've got the pad fitted there to the shoe, and then we're going to fill up the back half with the Mustad comfort mix padding. Just going to clean this up. There we go. Okay, so before we do that, obviously we can see the frog's it's getting a little bit thrushy and stuff, so give it a little bit more of a clean up, just get rid of all this raggedy stuff, and then we're gonna put some copper sulfate paste in there. should be using gloves for this really. Just to keep the frog clean underneath the pad. Good boy. Come on, mate. Leave that one out, I think. Okay, so now we've got the clencher up, and then we'll put in our padding. So again, when I'm shoeing like this, I keep the integrity. You can see the wall is straight from top to bottom. We don't need to be stripping it back. I want to keep the integrity there. Right, yeah, so now we're going to put some comfort mix in there, pack the back half of the foot. Nozzles. going to cut the piece out like that, stick it in there, another one, so that hopefully we'll get just the back half of the foot packed in. See where I put that pen? That's right, I've got a red one here. I should have done this before I nailed it on, really. That in there like that. Lesson learnt. Cut these out before you nail it on. You've got quite a deep foot there, so a lot of the time with these guys, you won't have to cut this many out. All right, mate. Right, there we go. Now we get good boy. So yeah, we're putting this on just to protect the heel growth that we got when I first started doing this chap. Both feet were absolutely flat as pancake, and we've been putting padding in him as often as we can, depending on budget. We're always fighting budget, but let's see how it comes out. Good boy. Stand up, mate. Just let him stand on that. Right, give that a second to go off. So if we look, so another way of seeing the balance around the centre of rotation is from a lateral view. So if we look at the foot from a lateral view, we take about, this is easier to do in a photo, but you take about a third of the hairline from the toe to the heel. We drop a line down there, and then, so it's better to do from a photo. You drop a line down a third of the way of the hairline, and you should have 50% in front of that and 50% behind that. So we're looking for proportions all the time. And the reason we're doing that is because for every increment of toe length, we create an increase extending moment in the foot. So the extending moment is the centre of pressure acting through the foot, which is like a collapsing force on the limb. So for every increment of toe length we have an increased collapsing force on the limb, which has to be counteracted by the flexor structure, so the deep digital flexor tendon, the superficial digital flexor tendon, and the suspensory. So by creating ideal proportions, we create less tension in the flexor structures, because they've got less of a job to do fighting the collapsing force of the extending moment. So we just give that polish up. Are we? Okay. Okay, so get this stuff off and see what we got underneath. This stuff's a nightmare to get off. shove this out of the way. So we could spend ages cleaning it up, but basically there you have it. So we've created 50-50 proportions around that centre of rotation, which was about here. So we've got half of the shoe behind it, half of the shoe in front of it. At that centre of the breakover is around about the top of the Mustad sign. So that's 50-50, 50-50. And then when we look at it from a lateral view, and we go about a third, we've got 50-50. So that's one of the fundamental principles of my shoeing, is creating the proportions around the centre of rotation. 1, creates biomechanical efficiency. 2, it reduces or optimises the strain in the flexor structures. So there you have it. Thank you very much.